It is Monday on Daily Delivery. I'm Michael Rand. Patrick Reusse here with me. Patrick, look, it's been 2 weeks in a row, I think, that you said I love Mike Zimmer. I want him around as long as possible, but I also there's like a twisted part of you that also wanted to curse Mike Zimmer with a kicking problem. That you like when Mike Zimmer has a kicking problem, and it was almost like do you have like some sort of sixth sense or something? Because boy, oh boy, Patrick, we have a kicking problem now after 34-33 loss on Sunday. Greg Joseph misses a extra point that costs them gives them the deficit that leads to his 37-yard game-winning field goal attempt at the gun that goes wide right. Also, you can't make it up, can you?
No, and you know what? I've changed my mind because I saw a video of Zim's post-game interview.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'd been crying. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was a tough one.
That was as devastated as I've seen him. Of course he did. I mean, it's Arizona, but you're indoors. He had this red, puffy face, and I was worried about it. You know, he's had some health problems. I was worried about him. I was not, and you know what? The effort that the Vikings, I've always said the worst thing about the Blair Walsh miss was that the effort that team and that defense put into winning that game. It's freezing. It's 15 below zero, and you're out there playing against a team that just kicked your about 3 weeks earlier, right? And they played magnificently, and they were going to win the game, and he missed the. That's the worst part of that, is that what he did to his teammates, not what he did to the fan base. And in a lot of ways, same thing yesterday, because that second half, this not beloved defense of this team, they really played well. Murray made the one play when they decided to blitz him on 4th and 5, and he threw the long pass. But they had Kyler Murray looking as bad as he'll ever look for 4 or 5 possessions in a row there. I mean, and he threw the interception. That guy I never heard of, Nick Vigil, makes the interception. And they, his quarterback rating in the second half had to be about 20, didn't it? And I mean, they played great. And now the other thing is, I don't think we're not talking about this, how well the Arizona defense played the second half. I mean, the Vikings, for the first 25 minutes, that was an offensive clinic. They just tore them up. I mean, I said on Twitter, I hope Clint Kubiak doesn't leave for a new job like Stefanski,
Yeah.
I mean, it looked great. Now, the second half, the Vikings had a number of 3 and outs, and I'm not blaming anybody for it, but, because Cousins ended up having a very good game. But it was a defensive struggle in the second half. And finally, Arizona, didn't Arizona run into the punter that gave us that last chance there?
I don't think that was right at the end, but it was somewhere. It was somewhere in there where they got an extra possession out of it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And they maybe got a field goal out of that.
I think they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, So, I mean, that's the worst part of it, is I wonder what it's like. That's a long flight from Arizona.
Oh, it is.
I wonder what you feel like after you miss that kick. Flying, you got to be the guy that the airplane security had to arrest during the flight, and they bound you all up and put you in your seat, doesn't it? I mean, isn't that the way you have to feel? Don't you just feel like an idiot? Because even at your best, these guys don't respect you as a football player, right? They know you're not a football player.
You're a kicker.
And you're a kicker. And then you do that to them when they're going to get this win that nobody expected them to win. The Vikings were only 4.5 point underdogs, which I thought was low. And somebody said they got it at 3.5 early in the week. So Now, once again, I guess the Las Vegas guys are showing us that we shouldn't have been quite as impressed with Arizona as we were after that opener, because everybody saw that game against Tennessee and thought they were, I think it was Tennessee, right? And
I believe that's right. Yeah.
Thought they were this machine, this unstoppable machine. And Kyler Murray was infallible, and they made him look very fallible. They played, they should have won the game. And everybody always says that. Here's the other thing, and I said this on Twitter, Mike. Last week, we saw everything in NFL entertainment to make it terrible. It was terrible. It was terrible. This was the best the NFL has to offer, this game.
Yeah.
This was the best it has to offer. This is high voltage entertainment. And then you can come out of there with a win, and then the guy misses the field goal. It's incredible. But you know what I said that is the Vikings missing a kick like that, Mike. First sign of winter in Minnesota. It's right there with the leaves falling, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's.
Daniel Carlson, game 2 of the season.
It was
in Green Bay.
I had flashbacks.
Yeah, game 2, and they set him up. Now they set up about 6 different times, and he started.
Right.
He kicking him further right as the day progressed.
Yes, it was. He was missing right, and that's when you miss right. That means you're kind of just pushing. You're pushing it right. He pushed it.
That means you're not. That means you're choking. That means you're not finishing. I don't think.
Although Blair missed left though. That was that's a different kind of choke.
Blair kicked it straight. He just kicked it straight. Unfortunately, he had to kick it a little bit right.
Right.
But it was hard. It was harder for Blair to miss it because he was right on top of it. But Gary Anderson, you still don't look at that as a choke, right? I mean, he kicked it, and he kicked it like he kicked it all year, and it just missed it by 6 inches, 8 inches. But this one was off his foot. I said he missed it.
Yeah,
I thought right away he missed it.
Yeah, me too.
It didn't look like he finished his swing.
No. Well, I mean, I'm sure Zimmer's reaction has got to be a lot of different things, right? Because after the game, there's the quote where he said something like, basically it's kind of like kind of like what Rocco was saying early in the year, where it's like, hey, I like the way we're playing. We keep playing this way. We're going to win a lot of games. And that may be true, but what he's got to realize is, what we all realize is that this is such an important year for his job security, probably. And that in the NFL, like, you lose a game like this and you stack it on top of last week, which is a game where they didn't play nearly this well, but also could have won. Like, when you're 0-2 in those types of games right at the start of the season, like, your margin for error becomes basically nothing now. You have to win games now where you probably don't deserve to win or weren't expected to win just to get back into the playoff discussions.
Mike, look at the point spreads in the NFL.
Right.
Look at the point spreads in the NFL versus college football, right?
Yes.
Even within the Big Ten. Every game is under a touchdown.
Almost all of them. Yeah.
Yeah. All of them are all under a touchdown. Not all games are 80% of your games are like this.
Yeah.
These are the ones you have to win. 70% of the time to maybe 80% of the time, the losing team could say, we should have won that game. We could have won that game. If we'd only made this like
3 more plays.
Or, one play, 2 play, we would have won this game. So you've had 2 of those games and you've lost them both. So those are 2 of that means, you're going to have 8 more of those, 10 more of those, right? You're going to have them like this, and you're already behind the gun because so if you go 5-5 in your next 10 close games, right? If you split them, which is you do, then you're 5-7. Then you're in trouble.
Right. Exactly.
So you're now we have all the stats about how if you're 0-2, you don't make the playoffs. Now we got to keep 2 things in mind. A 17 game season, but even more important, an extra team in each conference so those old stats are really not valid because they don't relate to what the current football is, which is 17 games and 7 teams making the playoffs. And by the way, 2 years from now, it's going to be 18 games and 2 teams making, and maybe 8 teams making the playoffs. But
maybe
those stats don't count. But yes, if you start losing those games, more bad things are going to happen, and you don't like bad things to happen right away, right?
No,
it's because those are the kind of games. The coin flip games, you got to win. You got to win those. That's how you have a good season, by winning those games. And they're 0-2.
Well, and when you lose those games too, I think it does. You're right, and it does speak to your roster, and usually that's where your lack of depth or where you've cut corners shows up, right? And that's kind of what they did with the kicker. Like Greg Joseph. He's a professional kicker. Obviously, he's one of the best in the world at this, but he's not this super reliable. They don't have this guy that's been there for 8 years and is one of the highest paid kickers in the game. And you reliably trust to make this. You're like, boy, I hope he makes this because he's a journeyman, and that's what we could afford. That's what we went with this year.
He hadn't kicked since 18, right?
Right.
He hadn't been a regular kicker since 18. So he's he's J.A. Happ. That's who he is,
Not even.
J.A. Happ of kickers, right?
Not even that. He's like Matt Shoemaker.
Yeah, Matt Shoemaker. That's Matt Shoemaker if he hadn't kicked for 2 more years. But
right.
Anyway, that's the same kind of acquisition he is. And these guys are, you're taking your chances. And of course, all you got to look is the guy in Las Vegas was 4 for 4 yesterday. So,
yeah,
that was Zim's big mistake. But here's the other thing, though. The other big takeaway from that game, in addition to the loss and blah blah blah, the bad things. Daniel Hunter, woo.
Daniel Hunter, he was
helps that when you're fast enough to run down to in 3 steps corral Kyler Murray. It's not running him down in the open field. He's breaking out of the pocket. You're 1.5 strides behind him, and a moment later you got him wrapped up. It was amazing.
That play where he grabbed his jersey, I thought when he kind of came outside then in, and then looked like Murray was going to go around the corner and do one of his things.
Murray was ready to go. Murray was ready to roll down the sideline.
I cannot believe he got him there. I was like, oh man, he didn't contain the edge. There goes Murray, and the next thing you know, he's got a handful of jerseys. He's dragging him to the ground.
That is a big, fast man right there.
Yeah.
Man. I mean, how tall is that guy? 6'4", 5".
He's a specimen. He's like their prototype now. That's what they look for. They look for the athlete now on defensive end.
Now this deal he negotiated with him gives him like some kind of an out after this season.
I think so. Yeah,
that kind of thing. So, they're going to be ripping up his contract again. Man alive, that's like getting back. I don't know who, but. I mean, they couldn't. Now, maybe Arizona's got offensive line problems. I don't know, but they couldn't do a thing with him.
No,
they couldn't do a thing with him, man. He's the reason. He's the reason they contained Kyler Murray. He 3 times, right? Sacked him 3 times. I wonder if one guy's gotten Kyler Murray 3 times in the NFL.
Yeah, I don't know. And Cousins actually was protected reasonably well, I thought, in that game. He had some time to throw, and I thought Cousins played really well. And Dalvin Cook was running wild. Like, they kind of had it all going. It's just, you can't lose that game.
Some of those holes in the first half for Dalvin Cook were unbelievable.
They were
knocking the hell out of some guys. And
he got dinged up a little bit too. They'll have to see how that plays out.
He's go. He's the go Gomez of football. Every time he gets hit, he's laying on the ground. He's like Louis Arise, for God's sakes. He likes to. It's a different sport. You're getting hit. You're taking some hits, but he's going to walk off. he's going to walk off the field 3 or 4 times, But
Xavier Rhodes effect. Xavier Rhodes used to do that all the time.
Good old Bud. Bud used to drive Bud crazy. Bradshaw.
Oh, yeah?
He'd get carried off the field on a stretcher, and 10 minutes later, he'd be running out of the tunnel, running around. Bud used to drive him. He used to drive Bud crazy. He didn't play him that often, but I remember him taking some shots at Bradshaw being gurneyed off the field every once in a while and come running back. And Dalvin's got a little of that in him. But here's the other thing. Except for Anthony Barr, you're 0-2 and you haven't really had big injuries to worry about, right?
Not on defense.
I'm not sure, and I'm not sure Barr is that big of a problem anyway. I mean, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what losing. I think that, to me, when in the Cap world, the big mistake they made was paying him.
Yeah,
paying him a huge amount of money, and he has not. He gets hurt, and even when he doesn't get hurt, I guess he's a security blanket in a way for Zimmer, but I don't get it. He's had about 2 really good years, but those haven't been for about 4 years. So I think they spent a lot of money that they shouldn't have had on him.
Yeah, I think the defensive guys they can't afford to be without are Kendricks, Hunter, Harrison Smith. That's about
Kendricks.
Maybe one of the big guys in the middle too.
Kendrick's a monster. I don't know. The other safety made a nice play. I don't know enough about him and Xavier Woods, but he came over on a late throw there and got the interception. And so, they played good. They really played good defensively against Kyler Murray made the first scramble play for the 77-yard touchdown was one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen, Mike. I mean, he's running for his life out of the pocket, and as he's moving, he's able to see this guy standing and just lets it go right in his belly. It was what he has, Mike? Arm talent.
He does have arm talent.
Talent.
He's the next. He's another Russell Wilson. That's what he is.
Yeah, he is. He is Russell Wilson. But Vikings beat Seattle. That they're going to beat Seattle.
They're going to beat Seattle on Sunday. Okay.
Seattle's over. Seattle's not very good. They're overrated. How about that? They had 2 touchdown lead and kicked that one away yesterday.
Yeah,
Tennessee on your home court.
Yeah, it's one last thing on the Vikings before we move on to talk Gophers, a happier subject for fans. There was some chatter, I think, at the end of the game. Should the Vikings have tried to get it closer? We were joking before the show started. They should have moved it back. They had 40 seconds where they could have gotten some more yards. That didn't bother me. I was like, 37 yards is a perfectly good field goal.
What if they do that again and you give the ball to Cook?
Right.
And he does what he did last week.
Right. Like 3 or 4 more yards that's not much of a difference from that distance.
That's not. That had nothing to do with the
kick.
miss.
That
had nothing to do with the miss.
That's what I thought too.
But people are looking to Zim. They're looking to try to blame something. Except why do we always want to blame somebody except the kicker? Are we going to have school kids doing drawings in the first grade now supporting Greg Joseph or not?
I don't know.
Save that for little teeny. I wonder what little teeny Blair is doing.
I don't know.
Well, he had like one last chance about 2 years ago.
Yeah,
right?
with Seattle, I think. Yeah.
Somebody brought him in for every 2. Yeah, I wonder what a guy like that's doing now for work because. Yeah.
Oh, I think we know. I think he's modeling. I think Ben Gessling told me that he's like he's like doing some modeling.
Wow.
And maybe some real estate out.
He was kind of wearing the tight suits before PJ was wearing the tight suits, right? The tight suits that show a lot of the ankle and stuff like that. Ben
Gessling was telling me something about Blair Walsh modeling, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So,
okay. Anyway, poor Zimmel. I said that Zim's going to have Kari Vidvik in for a tryout.
maybe we can get him for a 4th round pick this time.
was the most mysterious thing of all time.
The weirdest thing ever. Bring him in to compete for like 3 weeks, give up a 5th-round pick, which they love. They love those 5th-round picks, and then they get rid of him.
Yeah,
but he's a kicker and a punter, which means he's neither.
Anyway, that game was so good I didn't miss a play. Usually,
that was a great game. Yeah, it really was.
Out, but it was a hell of a game.
It was. Let's talk Gophers for a little bit. Then I want to get a couple twins thoughts at the end. What a butt kicking! I did not see the Gophers. Speaking of, I think you mentioned the point spread for Vikings. I think the Gophers were like 3-point underdogs in that game.
2.5, yeah, 2.5.
And they end up winning 30-0 at Colorado. They run the ball. Run the ball great. It was like 450 to 60 something.
60. That's what I don't know if we did enough research on this. I think 63 yards, was it? Something like that.
I think it was something like that.
There's some sacks in there.
Yeah.
LaBelle wanted them to get some sacks, so they got some sacks. But I can't remember. I bet it. I wonder when the last time they did that, even against these, non-conference, low level MAC teams and all those. I bet it's 40 years since I can't remember when they've ever held a team to 60 some yards defensively, especially this bunch that certainly looked so horrible in the secondary. The first week against Ohio State, not very good last week against Miami of Ohio, which is a mediocre MAC team. So it's unfortunate that I guess a lot of Minnesota people were out there, took the vacation and walked around in the mountains for a couple of days on a beautiful weekend in Boulder. But who saw it on TV in the Twin Cities? About 25 people. I don't know. I saw we had instructions in the paper on Saturday now to find it, but that was way too complicated for me. So it's unfortunate they end up on that network that nobody in the Twin Cities has on any of their outlets. So
yeah, that was too bad. It was because I was one of the people. I mean, obviously people would want to see that. I was in and out on that one. We had a wedding to go to on Saturday, so I was kind of trying to follow that one a little bit less on TV and more on phone and stuff like that. But it was, just
really I didn't you, Mike, though. I thought going in, their strength was going to be that offensive line with all that experience and having the two big fellas back on the right side and having Andres and all these guys. I mean, that's the most experienced offensive line in the league, and they obviously took Colorado apart because they've turned Trey Potts into the second coming of Ibrahim. So I mean, it was. He ran great. He had the big numbers in the second half last week, and then he had, but they rushed for over 300, right, or almost 300.
Yeah, they got up there.
Morgan didn't. We don't, and they when Bell came back, and they got Dylan Wright. So offensively, they should be good. And
but the defense was West right defense now, was the surprise.
You look at the West right now. Wisconsin's not great. Illinois is terrible. Northwestern's terrible. Northwestern lost everybody. They don't have players back. Nebraska, they played Oklahoma tough.
They did,
surprised me, but they're still nothing to write home about. I think Iowa's the only. They figure out a way to beat Iowa. They can win the West. I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because they're really experienced, and we really haven't given the passing game a chance to get going. But Colorado, a lot of people, the cynics are saying, and I'm usually one of them, but are saying that Colorado's no good. But defensively, they gave Texas A&M a hell of a game the previous week. They only lost 10-7. So what they did offensively, I mean, 63 yards is amazing, but also what they did offensively to a team that held Texas A&M to 10 is pretty obviously had to be, as good a performance as they've had. And the one thing I'll say about Fleck, beyond the fact that he's full of more crap than a Christmas goose, is that his teams get better.
Yes.
His teams do get better because, that as we've talked about, that the 11-2 team could have been 0-3 in the exhibition. In a very mediocre non-conference schedule. They played, I wouldn't say, they were They could have lost to South Dakota State, could have lost to Georgia Southern, should have lost to Georgia Southern, should have lost to Fresno.
Yeah.
And they ended up kicking the hell out of Auburn in a bowl game. So, his teams have gotten better.
Well, when they have that offensive line like they do, and you mentioned that, and I think it was a few weeks ago, I did a blog post about if and when the Vikings play Darisaw and Wyatt Davis, which, could happen at some point this year, the average age of the Vikings offensive lineman will only be 1 year older than the Gophers offensive lineman. Yes. So I'm like, they're old, they're experienced, they've got depth there. And when you've got that, like in college football, which can be a lot more one-dimensional than the program. You can have just a running game still in college. I mean, Tanner Morgan's a fine quarterback, so I'm not saying they can't throw, but you can be pretty one-dimensional in college if you have that offensive line. I mean, if you can hold the ball for 35 minutes, that makes your defense even that much better. So that gives them at least something that's going to be their identity this season, whether it's enough to beat Iowa later in the year and enough to beat Wisconsin still, I don't know, but it's something at least this year for them to build on.
Now, I do have a really bitter complaint about college football compared to the NFL game.
Okay.
In the NFL game, you either run into the huddle, which you do most of the time, and call your play and go up the line of scrimmage, or you you're playing hurry up and the quarterback just barks out a play and you rush up to the line. In college football, every team I'm watching now has 11 idiots looking over to the sideline, waiting to run the play with about 10. What is that about? What is that about? Call a play.
It's like you want the benefit of the hurry up where you catch the team without being able to sub, but you don't want to go fast.
It's like recess. It's like kindergarten recess, lining all the kids up and telling them what you want them to do here or not. Yeah. It's like a grade school monitor. God, it drives me crazy. Just line up like football players and let's go. Come on.
I agree. That does drive me crazy too. Oh, yeah. Patrick, I got one more thought for you on baseball, and then we're going to get out of here. I loved your tweet yesterday that when the Twins fell behind the Blue Jays 5-0, that they finally got Jose Barrios some run support.
Luke Farrell finally got Jose Barrios some run support. How's that for a good pitching game for Barrios? 6 2/3. But the 3 runs he gives up are a double by Nick Gordon and a home run by Ben Rortvedt.
Yeah.
What the hell kind of a pitch did he have to throw to let Ben Rortvedt hit a home run? I actually happened to be in the car for a little bit, and the Toronto broadcast was on MLB X, the Sirius channel. And listening to them, and John, he made it. That guy made it sound like Jose was tremendous. Giving up a 2-run double to Nick Gordon and a home run to Rortvedt is not tremendous. Supposedly he'll pitch here Friday night, though, right?
Oh, well, okay. I didn't see that. Yeah, I suppose, yeah.
If they stay in rotation, he'll pitch here Friday or maybe Saturday. I think Toronto plays today, so I think they play all week, and they probably got to pitch him on his day because the lefty, the Reusse, whatever it is, but terrible, like 2 games in a row. They might have to skip him for a game, and so maybe Barrios pitches here Friday. What a lineup that is! How about the bullpen holding those guys scoreless for 7 innings? Yeah. So man alive, because that is a lineup right there. I'm sorry, Vlad's got to be the MVP over Ohtani, I believe,
just because of what they're doing.
Yeah, what they're doing, yes, and it's the fact that Ohtani is both pitching and hitting is certainly a wonderful novelty, but it hasn't done much for the Angels in the standings, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. That's try to figure out.
Might win the Triple Crown at age 22.
Yeah,
age 22. Do you know we have a Triple Crown winner who didn't win the MVP?
Yeah, who it was
1942. Ted Williams won the Triple Crown, and Joe DiMaggio had his 56-game hitting streak.
It was 41, right? 41?
41.
Yeah.
40. Excuse me.
That AL race, by the way, is something else, isn't it? Trying not the division race, but which of those teams is going to get the wild cards?
Yes. And the other race is the Dodgers and the Giants having the two best records in baseball. The Dodgers now, their lead for the wild card in the National League is 16 games.
Oh my God.
Like 16 or 17 games.
Be
so yeah, but the American League is who's going to the Yankees get beat twice in a row by Cleveland and lost that spot. So I think we're all rooting for Toronto or somebody else to get that. So
there might be 4 teams in the East that win 90 games. It'll be like the old American League East back in the day when only one team made it and everybody else got to cry. I think it was was it the 87 year? Was it 87 when they all had all those wins in the AL East? I think it was.
If I was one of the 33 remaining Orioles fans, I'd look up and be a little depressed about the future.
They're 35 and a half games out of 4th.
Yes, right.
They really are.
I know. Yeah, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. The last time they played Toronto, they gave up 44 runs in 3 games.
Is that all? Oh, man.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Well,
all righty.
We'll do it again next week.
Quite a weekend.
Yeah. Who knows what the Vikings will do a week from now? You're calling a win. Let's just say nothing at this point will surprise me. How about that? We're only 2 games into the season.
Let's say I'm very happy I wasn't in Las Vegas this weekend because my billfold would be about 500 light because I would have given the points. So anyway.
There you go. All right, Patrick. Thanks.
Yep. See you. Goodbye.